Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm glad you're here today. We're about to explore an important topic, consumer rights and responsibilities. This presentation will cover key aspects of what you, as consumers, should know to protect yourself and also how you can play your part responsibly. We'll look at your rights when making purchases, the responsibilities that come with being a consumer, and some practical tips to navigate the marketplace confidently. Let's get started. Now, let's take a closer look at some important days that highlight consumer awareness and protection. These days help us remember the importance of our rights and responsibilities as consumers. Moving on, we'll discuss how markets function and the role they play in our everyday lives. It's essential to understand how goods and services are exchanged and what influences prices. Next, we'll explore the Consumer Protection Act of 1986, a crucial law that safeguards our interests and provides us with avenues to seek redress. Then, we'll examine the relationship between producers and consumers, how they interact, depend on each other, and the importance of fair practices. We'll also look into the consumer movement in India, which has been vital in fighting for consumer rights and raising awareness. Towards the end, we'll identify who a producer is, someone who makes or provides goods and services, and the rights given to consumers to ensure they are protected. Finally, I want to thank you all for your attention. This journey through consumer rights and responsibilities is key to empowering us as informed and responsible buyers. Let's start by understanding who a consumer really is. A consumer is anyone who purchases products or services for their personal use. It's not about buying for business purposes, manufacturing, or resale. Instead, it's about individuals or groups like households who buy things for themselves. Now, why is this important? Because the consumer's use of a product is final. That means once they use it, they typically don't improve or change it. They just use it as it is. This final use impacts how businesses think about their marketing and product development because they're directly serving these end users. Connecting this to our overall theme, understanding the consumer helps us grasp the entire cycle of how products reach the end user and why their needs and preferences are so crucial in shaping the market. Let's talk about what production really is. Essentially, it's the process of combining different types of inputs, both material and immaterial, to create something that can be consumed. Think of it as the act of turning resources into goods or services that people find valuable. This process is crucial because the output we create adds to our overall well-being. When we produce, we're directly or indirectly working to satisfy human wants and needs, which is at the heart of economic activity. Now, moving on to the question, who is a producer? A producer is anyone involved in this process of transforming inputs into outputs. It could be a factory that makes cars, a farmer growing food, or even a service provider like a hairdresser. Producers are the key drivers behind the creation of goods and services that contribute to our economic and personal well-being. Understanding who the producers are helps us see how different parts of the economy work together to meet our needs and wants. This ties into the overall theme of how economic activities create value and improve our lives. Let's start by understanding the roles of the two key players in the market, the consumer and the producer. A consumer is someone who uses the products made by the producer to satisfy their needs. Think of it as the end user, the person who benefits from the goods or services. On the other hand, the producer is the one who creates these goods and services, using natural resources or man-made resources to do so. Now, the relationship between the producer and consumer is fundamental to how markets work. Producers supply the products that consumers want and need. In turn, consumers influence what producers make based on their preferences and demands. This interaction creates a dynamic flow. Producers respond to consumer needs, and consumers choose products based on availability, quality, and price. Understanding this relationship helps us see the bigger picture of how markets operate efficiently. It's a continuous cycle where both roles are interconnected and essential for economic activity. So, in our overall discussion, keep in mind that this interaction between producer and consumer drives the supply and demand that shapes the entire economy. The consumer has the right to be protected against the marketing of goods and services that could be hazardous to life and property. It's crucial that producers strictly follow safety rules and regulations to ensure this protection. Many of the goods and services we buy require special attention to safety. For example, take pressure cookers. They come with a safety valve, and if that valve is defective, it could lead to a serious accident. That's why manufacturers of safety valves must ensure high-quality standards. When we purchase goods and services, our focus shouldn't just be on meeting immediate needs, but also on safeguarding our long-term interests. Before making a purchase, we should insist on the quality of the product and also look for guarantees or warranties that provide assurance. Whenever possible, it's a good idea to choose products that carry quality marks like ICSE or AGMARK. These marks are indicators that the product has met certain safety and quality standards, giving us extra confidence in our choices. Remember, our right to safety is about protecting ourselves and our property from harm, and being vigilant about quality and safety standards plays a vital role in that. Let's talk about the right to be informed. This is a crucial aspect of consumer protection. Essentially, it means that as consumers, we have the right to know important details about the products or services we purchase. This includes information about the quality, potency, purity, standard, and price. Having this information helps us make informed choices and protects us from unfair trade practices. It's important to insist on getting full details before making any decision. If the product turns out to be defective or not as promised, we have the right to complain, ask for compensation, or request a replacement. This right empowers us to act wisely and responsibly, ensuring we're not misled or pressured into buying something unsuitable. In the bigger picture, this right to be informed enables us to avoid falling prey to high-pressure sales tactics and ensures we're making decisions based on clear, truthful information. Remember, knowledge is power when it comes to protecting ourselves as consumers. Now, let's talk about the right to choose. This is a fundamental aspect of consumer rights. The idea that consumers should have access to a variety of goods and services at competitive prices whenever possible. In a free market, this means we can compare options and select what best suits our needs and budget. However, in cases of monopolies, it's a bit different. The right still exists, but it focuses on ensuring that the quality and service are satisfactory and that the prices are fair. It's about making sure that even when there's only one provider, consumers aren't left with subpar options or unfair costs. This right also includes access to basic goods and services, essentials that everyone should be able to obtain. It's important because the unrestricted right of a minority to choose can sometimes prevent the majority from getting their fair share. For example, if only a few have access to certain services, it limits the choices for the larger population. That's why a competitive market is so vital. It encourages a variety of options and helps keep prices fair. When multiple providers compete, consumers benefit from better quality, more choices, and reasonable prices. And remember, regardless of age, gender, or the nature of the service, every consumer has the right to decide whether to continue receiving a particular service. It's about empowering us to make informed decisions that suit our individual needs. This right to choose is a cornerstone of a fair and free market system, supporting the overall theme of consumer empowerment. Let's talk about the right to be heard. This means that our interests as consumers should be given proper attention when we go to the right forums or platforms. It's about making sure our concerns are listened to and taken seriously. This right also includes the opportunity to be represented in various committees or groups that are set up to look after consumer welfare. It's important to note that consumers should consider forming organizations that are non-political and non-commercial. These groups can then be given a voice in discussions and decisions made by the government or other bodies on matters that affect us all as consumers. Overall, the right to be heard empowers us to ensure our interests are considered and protected, and it encourages us to organize for better representation. This is a key part of building a fair and responsive consumer environment. Consumers have the right to seek redressal against unfair trade practices or unscrupulous exploitation. This means that if we face issues with products or services that are unfair or deceptive, we are entitled to take action and get a fair resolution. It also includes the right to a fair settlement of our genuine grievances. So, if we have a real problem, we should feel confident to raise our concerns. It's important to remember that we must make complaints when we have genuine grievances. Sometimes, these complaints might seem small, but they can have a significant impact on society as a whole. For example, a minor issue with a product might expose larger unfair practices that affect many people. We can also seek help from consumer organizations, which are there to support us in getting redressal. If our damage is caused by a product or service, we have the right to claim compensation for that damage. And if things don't get resolved, we have the option to take legal action by filing a case in a consumer court against a shopkeeper or manufacturer. This emphasizes that our rights are protected and that we have several avenues to seek justice when we face unfair trade practices. Remember, these protections are part of our broader rights as consumers, essential for maintaining fairness and accountability in the marketplace. Let's talk about the right to consumer education. This is the right to acquire the knowledge and skills needed to be an informed consumer throughout our lives. It's so important because ignorance on the part of consumers is often the main reason they get exploited. When we don't know our rights or how to exercise them, we become vulnerable. That's why it's crucial for consumers to be aware of their rights and actively exercise them whenever necessary. Furthermore, this isn't just an individual responsibility. Government and other organizations should play a proactive role in educating citizens about various aspects of consumer welfare. This kind of education helps protect us and ensures we make better choices. Only when consumers are well informed can true consumer protection be achieved. So, in essence, empowering ourselves with knowledge is the key to safeguarding our interests and promoting fair practices in the marketplace. It took many years for organizations in India and around the world to create awareness among people about consumer rights and issues. In India, the consumer movement as a social force really took shape out of the urgent need to protect and promote consumer interests, especially against unethical and unfair trade practices. During the 1960s, the movement was fueled by serious issues like food shortages, hoarding, black marketing, and adulteration of food and edible oils. These problems highlighted the importance of organized consumer efforts. Initially, until the 1970s, consumer organizations mainly focused on activities like writing articles, holding exhibitions, and raising awareness. They also formed groups specifically to investigate malpractices in ration shops and to address overcrowding in passenger transport. Over time, especially in recent years, we've seen a significant increase in the number of consumer groups across India. All these efforts started to bear fruit because they put pressure on both businesses and the government to improve business conduct and ensure fairness. A major milestone in this journey was the enactment of the Consumer Protection Act in 1986, popularly known as COPRA. This legislation marked a significant step forward in safeguarding consumer rights and establishing a formal framework for consumer protection in India. Let's talk about the Consumer Protection Act of 1986, commonly known as COPRA. This legislation was enacted by the Parliament of India in 1986 with the main goal of protecting the interests of consumers across the country. It provides for the creation of various authorities and councils to help settle consumer disputes efficiently. The idea is to ensure that consumers have a clear mechanism to address their issues and seek justice. This act aims to promote better protection for consumers, especially against exploitation and unfair practices. Importantly, it relies more on providing compensation to consumers rather than focusing solely on punishment or prevention. It covers all goods and services, unless explicitly exempted, and applies across private, public, and cooperative sectors. Another key aspect is that the Act offers speedy and cost-effective resolution of disputes, making justice accessible to everyone. The rights granted under this law are rooted in the fundamental rights enshrined in Articles 14 to 19 of our Constitution, emphasizing equality and freedom. You should also note the influence of the Right to Information Act, which has made governance more transparent and accountable, thereby indirectly strengthening consumer rights. Overall, COPRA is considered one of the most significant laws for safeguarding consumer interests in India. It has established a three-tier system at the national, state, and district levels to ensure quick, inexpensive, and effective redressal of consumer grievances. This comprehensive framework underscores our commitment to fair treatment and protection for all consumers. Today, I want to highlight some important days dedicated to consumer rights. First, let's talk about World Consumer Rights Day, which is observed every year on March 15th. This day commemorates a historic declaration made back in 1962 by former U.S. President John F. Kennedy, where he outlined 4 basic consumer rights. It's a global event that brings together the international consumer movement to celebrate these rights and promote awareness. On this day, people around the world come together to advocate for consumers, demanding that their rights are respected and protected. They also protest against market abuses and social injustices that threaten these rights. Now, moving to India, we observe National Consumer Rights Day on December 24th. This date was chosen because, on this day in 1986, the Consumer Protection Act was enacted. The act marked a significant milestone in strengthening consumer protections in India. By observing this day, we remind ourselves of the importance of consumer rights and the ongoing efforts to safeguard them. Both days serve as powerful reminders of our collective responsibility to stand up for consumer rights, ensuring fair treatment and justice in the marketplace. They connect to our overall theme by emphasizing the need for awareness, advocacy, and action to build fairer, safer markets for everyone.